Good morning, guys. It is 10:01 and it is November. It's November 22nd and I just had my ultrasound. Callie's coming early. I gotta get admitted to the hospital. Oh god. Ow. Oh my god. Ow. It's not my core that hurts, it's like underneath here. Underneath here hurts. It feels like my joints are separated, so maybe I shouldn't do push-ups quite yet. It has taken me 3 days to film this one video. I look lovely today. Yep. Anyway, so yeah, we got a lot to talk about. She came early. Everything I planned for, basically none of it happened. So I went in for my 36-week appointment at the OBGYN. And they went to go measure my belly. A couple weeks before it was like 33 inches. And then this week it was 22. She's like, oh, that's weird. Like, we need to put you in for an ultrasound right now just to see what's going on, like why your belly shrunk. And anyway, so they put me in to the ultrasound and come to find out my amniotic fluid is low. It went from my last ultrasound, it was like an 11, and this time it was like 6.7 or 6.9. 6.8. I think it was 6.8. And they're like, well, that's concerning. It's low norm, so that could mean that I have a leak. And so they checked me. They didn't find a leak, but they thought that the baby's body might have been plugging the leak. They had me come back out on Friday just to check the levels again. If it was any lower, then I was gonna have to go to the hospital. I went to the Friday appointment and my amniotic fluid was at 5.1. They admit you to the hospital at 5, so they're like, okay, you need to go. So I go to the hospital and I have to get induced. So they start giving me these pills, like I think once every 2 hours, or I think it's once every 2 hours that I get like this induction pill. I think I ended up taking like 5 of them, and I think I got at the hospital at like 11, or I started doing the inductions at 11 on Friday, and by 2 a.m. Saturday, contractions hurt really bad. My cervix was super tender. It was soft, but it was tender, so anytime they go to check me, it hurts so bad. And by that time, I was only 1 centimeter dilated, and I think it has something to do with the induction pills, because like it hurt so bad. I was just like, there was no way I was gonna make it through all of that if I was only 1 centimeter dilated. And anyway, so by that point, they wanted to switch me to Pitocin. They tried to put the Pitocin. Pitocin you have to insert. Or no, not Pitocin. It was like there's another one I had to take, and they have to insert it. So they put it in. They didn't put it in right, but it's also probably because I was so tight and so tense. Be either which way, the most I got to was like 2 centimeters. No, like 3. It was 2 centimeters. It was 2 centimeters dilated, and I said, I can't do this anymore. The contractions hurt so bad. It was frustrating because I wanted to do it natural. I tapped out and did epidural. And you know what? It's okay. I was terrified to do an epidural, but it's fine. I relaxed instantly. It's okay. It's okay to do epidural, okay? All right. But yeah, I relaxed instantly, and the most I got to was 3. Yeah, they broke my water, and then they had me on. They broke my water, and they had me on continual monitoring. A little while after I had the epidural, I got really nauseous. My blood pressure dropped low, and when my blood pressure dropped low, her blood pressure dropped low, like in the 40s. Like her heart rate dropped low, like into the 40s, and so that was very concerning to them, and that was very concerning to me when I kept hearing her heart rate slow down to basically nothing, and it freaked me out. Anyway, so that happened. So they kept rocking me back and forth on the sheet, trying to get her baby positioned into a different way, and her heart rate just kept dropping. So then the anesthesiologist, she ended up giving me a shot of ephedrine, and basically that was to amp up the baby. But yeah, so they gave me a shot of ephedrine to boost the baby's heart rate, and then during the contractions, she started getting tachycardia. Every time I'd have a contraction, she'd demonstrate tachycardia. So they were freaked out about that, and she kept doing it, and they were confused because like her heart would go back to normal, and then it would go back, and then it would go to tachycardia again. So like, all right, we're not doing this anymore. So I had to go in for an emergency. So 15 minutes later, I was in the operating room for emergency C-section. Come to find out, she was grabbing onto the umbilical cord every time I had a contraction, and it was messing with her heart rate. Yeah, so she gave us a scare. She came out, she was healthy, she was crying instantly. 6 pounds, 4 ounces, 19 inches long. Luckily, she didn't have to spend any time in NICU. They did have a NICU nurse come down and do a test on her just because she was a preemie baby. She was right on the cusp of it too. Like a couple days later, she would have been 37 weeks. So she was like right there. Spent a few days in the hospital. Actually spent, Friday, Saturday. I was released on Sunday. They would have had me stay till Monday, but with it being Thanksgiving week, they wanted to see if I wanted to get home early. Let's just say I had no energy. Thanksgiving would have not happened if my mom didn't come up. I have to say, becoming a mom has opened my eyes a lot to why my mom would do or say certain things. Things I would get frustrated about. I'd be like, why does that matter? I get it now. I get it. I understand some of the things there's still some things I don't understand, and it doesn't make sense to me. But there's another side of it now that I understand. And I know they tell you that your life changes in a second when the baby's born. That's an understatement. It's a severe understatement. Like, people, I think it's just thrown around, and it's not. It's like, for example, going to the hospital. the day you go to the hospital, I don't expect any more 8 hours of sleep at all. So your sleep is broken up into increments, maybe no sleep at all. The first night that we had her home, it was hard. I was trying to get her to sleep. She wanted to eat every second, and I was crying. I wanted to exclusively breastfeed, and that lasted a whole 2 days because with the cluster feeding, my boobs were hurting. I had no sleep. I was trying not to fall asleep while feeding her. So, luckily James had bought this formula. It's like Enfamil Optum. I don't know, Enfamil Optum something. I'll post it later. But it was like a in case of emergency kind of thing. And you know what? I use it usually once or twice for feedings during the day. It just depends. But usually one feeding a day I'll do formula. Yep. When I'm not breastfeeding, I use this as my substitute because sometimes baby girl has been eating more than I can produce or that my boobs can handle at this point. The rest I try to do breastfeeding or a bottle of breast milk. I'll say like the first few days were very hard. I was crying a lot. Whether that was postpartum or not, I don't know. I do feel kind of bummed out. I'm on the generic version of Zoloft now for postpartum. I think I'm handling okay. Dude, I love this kid so much. I love her. Her noises, all her cries, her squeaks, everything. Like, she is so cute. I love her so much. James has been so helpful. Anyway, so yeah, I got sidetracked. So yeah, my mom came up on Tuesday. And I'm glad that she did. I was really worried with her dog and my dog that I was gonna get no sleep and then the baby was gonna get no sleep and it was gonna be a nightmare. Luckily, we figured out a way for it to work. It was if she wasn't here, I wouldn't have done Thanksgiving. She did, she cooked Thanksgiving. Turkey would have been in the deep freezer still today. We're a week past Thanksgiving. It would have still been in the freezer. I wouldn't have made any food. I would have been eating junk food. I would have been eating whatever I could find in the cabinet, chips, whatever. I think I would have cried a lot more. One of the things I'd say that would be if you're becoming a mom that I would say to do. I didn't think about this ahead of time. Well, I didn't plan for her to come early. She came almost 3 weeks early. I would say just plan, if you have equipment like bottles and stuff like that, I would plan at least a couple weeks in advance. Don't expect to have a preemie baby like I did, but I would plan a couple weeks in advance to have like your bottles ready. I had to read the directions like while she was crying, trying to figure out, okay, what am I supposed to do with this bottle? I just unpacked it and I'm like, oh, I have to wash it. Oh, I have to sterilize it. Like, oh, I didn't know I had to do all this before I could use this bottle. And then I was like, well, maybe I'll pump. And then I picked up my pump, my Spectra pump, and I realized I had to sterilize everything. I had to clean everything before I could use it. I'm like, oh my God, like I can't use anything yet. And I'm sitting here with a crying baby and I'm like freaking out. I'm like, what do I do? It's like 2:30 in the morning. You're not gradually introduced to everything. It is a full-on sprint. Like you come home and it's a full-on sprint to figure everything out. And it's just you. I try to take care of the baby as much as possible. I try not to interrupt him too much because he's working, because I know he's very busy at that shop. What's another thing? Pack and play crib thing that we have in our bedroom. The infant or the newborn bassinet, she will not sleep in. I don't know if it's too small for her. She will not sleep in it. She would freak out every time we put her in there. So, that got ditched the second night and we just put her, there's like a second layer and it's like it's not the newborn one, it's the infant crib or infant bassinet underneath, and it's bigger, it's wider. And what I think the infant bassinet was too small for her. Like it's enclosed space. I don't think she likes it. She did fine in that. She does better in that. She does best in her crib, but the thing with her crib is I have to sleep in her room with her if she's sleeping in her crib. So that's the only downfall, but like last night I couldn't get her to go to sleep. She was wide awake from like 11:30 to 2 or something like that. So I finally got her to go to sleep. I breastfed her for like an hour, on off an hour, but it was not an hour through, but it was like an hour. If I were to put all the times together, it'd be about an hour. And then she was still hungry, so I gave her an ounce of formula. She started getting like the drowsy eyes, but then she'd like wake back up again. So I'm like, okay, I guess I'm gonna rock you. So I rocked her to sleep, and I'm like, yes. It was like about 2 in the morning. Her next feeding was supposed to be 2:30, and I'm like, there, she just ate. I'm like, I'm not waking her up again. So I just let her sleep through that one. The other thing too, I didn't realize having a newborn, you're supposed to wake them up every 3 hours. Some of them are like more recent, but every 3 hours you're supposed to wake them up, and not from the end of the last feeding. It's from like, so if your feeding was at 8:30 and your next feeding is at 11, it's at 11. It's not from whenever. So say you fed at 8:30 and you finished at 9. It doesn't start from 9. It starts from 8:30. So yeah, so that was hard to adjust to for a little bit. Sleep when you can. Sounds silly. Eat when you can. Like, I try to eat and drink while she's feeding off of me, because that's the time I know she's calm. She's eating, I'm eating, I'm drinking, I'm making sure to take care of myself while she's being taken care of. And then right after this, I'm gonna go try to sleep for a little bit. Probably about 2 hours. So yeah, you get like, you start getting used to it, like the shorter bursts of sleep. I had a really hard time with it the very first couple nights, but I'm starting to get used to it. You break your sleep up. It's not a consistent 8 hours. It's like maybe 30 minutes here, or an hour and a half here, maybe 2 hours there. It just depends, but yeah, you break your sleep up in increments, and that's how you get your sleep. The days are going by so fast. The first week was a blur. I think it was Thanksgiving. I don't remember. There was turkey, there was a ham, there was stuffing, so I'm thinking it was Thanksgiving. I had to buy preemie clothes, all the clothes from the baby shower. None of them fit. None of the newborns fit, so I had to buy a couple sets of preemie clothes from Amazon. I don't know when. My videos are not going to be consistent anymore until I get on until we're not doing the 3 hour feedings. I'm doing 3 hour feedings because once they leave the hospital, they lose like a certain percentage of weight, and I didn't know that. So she was 6 pounds 4 ounces when she was born. She left the hospital at 5 pounds 8 ounces. If they lose more than 10%, then they can't leave, but she lost 6%, so they were like, okay, she can go. Ever since then, we're on December 6th now, I've been trying to have her regain that weight. Last night I weighed her, she was 5 pounds 13 ounces, almost 14 ounces, so we're getting there, we're getting close. I'm hoping that she'll be back to her birth weight by the time we have our next pediatrician appointment. Anyways, all right, I'm gonna get some sleep, and I'll post this whenever. I'm gonna try to get back on a schedule with this. I can't make any guarantees now. I'm having a hard time making dinner and getting the house put together, let alone to put videos together for YouTube. Welcome to parenthood. I love this little girl though. She is so adorable. She is so adorable.